Hello, Joan. Hi there.
Hey, is it just me?
It's just you. Yeah. I don't know if it's the week or everyone's busy, but this has not been the most popular info session. But
Well,
just so you know, this happened last time too. This info session is like to give people an overview of the program, kind of geared towards people who haven't signed up yet. So I
right.
know you're already signed up, so you are obviously still welcome to be here. But
Yeah.
I remember that last time someone came and they thought it was like the first meeting of the group, you know, but
Yeah. I was just going to listen in and
yeah.
observe.
So, and there was actually a number of people who signed up who told me, I can't make it live, but I want to watch the recording. So I told them, yeah, there was so many people that said that it wasn't that many to begin with, but of the people who were signed up, the majority were like, I can't make it live. So I was like, I'll just deliver it even if it's just me. And then record it. I mean, I do have recordings from past ones, but just as a general rule, I don't want to disclose those because I kind of say that they're private, like because people ask questions, and stuff like that. So anyway, this could be the first one where I just deliver it. But do you have any questions before we start? Before I start, by the you and me.
No, I mean, I started looking through the materials already, and yeah, I'm just gathering information. So
Yeah.
I think I'm glad to have something to join and get information from, because it's all new to me. And like I said in my welcome survey, I don't know anyone else that has
Yeah.
RA. So
Yeah. What this is such a coincidence, literally a coincidence, but well, not complete coincidence. But anyway, I just had lunch because I'm on the West Coast, so I don't know where you are, but with an old friend of mine who has a family friend who is in her early 30s, just diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And she decided to join the group as well. I was like, wow, this is the first time I've like ever met someone in person, first of all, who's in the group. But also that's the first thing she said is like, I don't know anyone else who has this. So that is like, sometimes I get ahead of myself and I'm like, I want to teach people all these things and like blow your mind with like interesting facts. But it's like, what's most powerful is like, I like the fact that in this group, we sit in at the same time and talk to each other in a Zoom room about our lives. And that's like therapeutic and helpful.
right, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yep.
like, it's nice to feel like you are not the only person going through this. And yeah, so I mean, it's like I can't hear it enough myself as a patient, even like, that I'm so hard on myself. I don't know if you're the same way, but then hearing someone else be like, I struggle with that too. I'm like, oh, good, I'm not alone. So
Yep. Yeah. So
that's
I'm writing questions for when I actually start the program. So I'll have questions. I'll have some questions then, but I don't have any questions about the program right now.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Yeah. And I'm going to turn off the waiting room just because once I start like presenting, I don't want to accidentally what's happened before, learn from mistakes is, it's easy to kind of forget to check. Oh no, the uncheck the waiting room is not okay. So I'm going to just keep having to check the waiting room. Okay, I'll make sure I can see the little number at the bottom changes if there's more people that sign in. So I just don't want someone sitting in the waiting room, the Zoom waiting
Yeah.
room. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Usually I can click the button that says enable waiting room, but right now it's grayed out for some reason. But yeah, so I'll just go ahead and just provide, I have some slides, just provide an overview. But if you want to turn your video off, I'm not going to be offended if you're like multitasking.
I am multitasking, so
yeah,
no.
I am recording this in active speaker mode, which means if you are speaking, it'll record your video. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
And it's just going to be shared in a private link with only the people who registered. Oh, Therese is here. Yay, we have one more person. Maybe it'll let me enable. That is so weird that it's not letting me enable. Things are always changing. Teresa is someone I know on social media, but it is contemplating joining the group. So now it's a little bit larger. Yay. Well, I just thought of this idea of just putting the Zoom link directly into my Instagram stories, which I was thinking before not to do, because right, you could get like some random person like Zoom bombing, but I thought,
Right.
well, such a niche audience that most likely that won't happen. So, but where are you located in the US or where internationally?
I'm in the US and North Carolina, the middle part of North
Oh,
Carolina.
okay, nice. So yeah, I'm on the West Coast. It says
Yep.
Teresa's connecting to audio. So I'll just wait another second. Well, that's usually like an icebreaker.
Yep.
What we do. Let's see. Still, sometimes you know what, maybe the audio's, maybe her internet's not very good. So I might just start sharing just for time's sake, because I want to keep it to an hour for everyone's schedules. But let me do presentation mode here. But I will monitor the chat. So welcome, Teresa. It looks like you connected now. So let me know any questions as we go along. I'll just write that down in the chat. And yeah, it's a small group that are live. There are some more people that were requesting the recording who weren't able to make it live, but I'm just going to go ahead and give my spiel, my overview, and then have some time at the end for Q&As. And it can be questions and answers, not just about Rheum to Thrive. It could be just about rheumatic disease. I'm always kind of like an open book. I share, what I know. And maybe a lot of times what I end up doing is share links to people of like valid resources. Like, okay, off the top of my head, I can't remember like the list of like, for example, question I just got, which medications are safe during pregnancy and not. Like, here's the valid link to where you can find that evidence-based information. So if you are here or live or listening to the recording, you're in the right place. If you or someone you love has a rheumatic disease like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic, or ankylosing spondylitis, and maybe have experienced moments of feeling confused or overwhelmed, coping with either the symptoms or the stress that often goes along with these. And maybe you have felt alone. Like I am always on the soapbox, but I think it's just egregious that we give these people diagnoses in like a 20-minute appointment and then say, okay, try this medicine, come back in 3 months. And it's like, wait, what am I supposed to actually do? Like, the medications are really, really important, but there's also like, how do I navigate daily life with my pain and fatigue? How do I figure out how to actually live with this? So just a quick introduction. I think both of you who are here live know me a little bit, but if you're listening to the recording, I am an occupational therapist and I have had rheumatoid arthritis 19 years, almost 20. I'm also a mom. I have a 9-year-old and I love talking about that. If anyone has questions about pregnancy or postpartum with rheumatoid arthritis, I also created Arthritis Life, and it used to be called the self-paced part of Rheum to Thrive used to be called RA Roadmap. To make it less confusing, I just call it the Rheum to Thrive course and then the Rheum to Thrive support group. It's actually updated. I just updated all the content in March 2023, so everything is even more up to date with research and such. And I'm also a patient educator, and I have the Arthritis Life podcast. As I'm looking at this picture, I'm like, I also lost that necklace. Where is that necklace? I love that necklace. Anyway, a little bit distractible, but so I created Rheum to Thrive to answer that problem or answer that question of why are patients left with hardly any support and education. I ideally, if I had a magic wand, I would make this part of the standard of care in the American healthcare system. Unfortunately, I don't have that control. So this is the next best thing. The quickest way I could solve this problem is just doing it on my own. So I, wanted to, again, this is not telling you anything you don't already experience, but a lot of stress that people experience with inflammatory arthritis is all these unknowns, not knowing, no one can tell you for sure if you're going to respond to the medication or which one or how long, and how to explain it to friends and family, how it might affect your job. You might have lack of knowledge and be overwhelmed with all the new acronyms. You might kind of have a learning curve of how to be a patient. This is a big source of stress for me, was like conflicting information. Like seems like everyone has the opposite view of what you should be doing. You need to go vegan. No, you need to go paleo and eat a bunch of meat. No, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then I always make a point to say this. Oh, Helen is here too. That one of the things that can make it hard to adjust and kind of thrive with rheumatic disease is experiencing medical, trauma, or psychologically having challenges just from being misdiagnosed or not believed. I think the average length of time from first symptoms and your first medical appointment to an accurate diagnosis for autoimmune diseases as a whole is something like 3 to 5 years. So the majority of patients have been suffering, right? And myself included. I literally went to therapy. I actually went to therapy at first for postpartum, anxiety and depression, but then we ended up spending a lot of time for me processing what it was like to be not believed by medical providers and to be told you're not sick, you're just anxious. I don't know if anyone wants to share if they've had that experience, but I'm really sorry if you have. It's very, very stressful and difficult to cope with. So a lot of people with autoimmune diseases can obviously experience stress from that. But what have I not even mentioned yet? Spoiler alert, the actual physical symptoms. So I'm not just going to focus on the negative. I'm just explaining why it is a very stressful experience for many people to get a diagnosis like rheumatoid arthritis. And layering onto this all is the fact that a lot of friends and family or coworkers, often well-meaning, but they don't really understand the severity of it. So often people could feel really alienated because they're like, oh, well, people say, oh, it's just arthritis. Like, oh, you're tired. Well, I just was talking to somebody who has rheumatoid arthritis and their sister had told them, well, the sister just had a baby. And the one with rheumatoid arthritis said, oh, I'm so fatigued lately. And the sister was like, well, you don't know what fatigue is. Like, I just had a baby and I'm really tired too. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, it can be so hard. So, we have these physical symptoms layered on top of some, social challenges. And so just know, the reason I say this is to normalize it, because a lot of times we can be hard on ourselves and be like, oh, why aren't I coping better with this? It's hard, and I asked people, what are some of the hardest things about coping with rheumatic disease? And this person said, I feel like very few people in my life understand what it is. They think it's not a big deal. When people say things like, oh, my knees hurt too, or my hand hurts too, or they try to scare people from taking the medications, or basically invalidating. And if you imagine, it's not hard to imagine actually layering that invalidation on top of the experience of potentially having had some medical gaslighting and medical trauma can be really, really hard. By the way, I want to make sure, Therese and Helen, I said this earlier, but I think it was before you were here, that I am recording this presentation in active speaker mode, which just means that if you share your video and your audio, it'll be part of the recording. I'm only sharing the recording with the people who signed up for the info session, which is like less than 15 people. So it's not going to be broadly shown or anything, but I think privacy is really, really important to a lot of people. And so I want to respect that. So that said, if you do want to at any point unmute yourself or share your video and ask a question, that way you are welcome to do so. Otherwise, you can ask in the chat, and this recording will be shared later. So just wanted to make sure I cover that. But so you might wonder, why haven't you gotten more support? This is a well-known documented problem. People there's studies that show, like from the European League Against Rheumatism, patients expressed they had received insufficient information. And I liked how they phrased this. They wanted to be recognized as more than their disease, to be enabled to use their own resources and re-engage in previously abandoned activities. I think that's just it's a beautiful thing to recognize that that's what people want. It's a not beautiful thing to recognize that they're not getting support to do that. So that's why I created my program. I'm totally honest and transparent. I don't have a secret that no one else in the world is able to figure out. I don't have access to a miracle cure or a magic wand or anything. technically everything I teach you is publicly available information that I've gathered and sorted through. It's, evidence, scientific evidence, plus I guess not everything. Some of it's my own unique point of view. But what I'm saying is like, you could, like, if I'm playing devil's advocate, you could figure out a lot of the information I teach in the course on your own. It just takes time and it takes energy, which, as those of us who run quote unquote low on spoons, which if you know about the spoon theory, it's a way of kind of visualizing your energy units, is like spoons. So everything you do in your day costs you a spoon. Let me know in the chat if you've ever heard of the spoon theory. But the idea is that I have organized the information in a way. Okay, Joan says yes. That I try to help you walk through the information step by step, because rheumatic diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, non-radiographic axial spondyloarthritis, say that 5 times fast, lupus, Sjogren's, these are all extremely complex conditions. And so it takes time and energy to sort through and kind of figure out, okay, here's where there's strong evidence for these like kind of lifestyle factors or these ways of coping. And here's where there's maybe not great evidence, but maybe there's not evidence of harm. And then here's like, beware of these things. So my goal is to teach you the tools to manage symptoms and cope and live the best quality of life right now. I'm very focused in the here and now. And that is kind of a mindfulness-based approach that I found very helpful. I tend to be like a chronic over planner. Like I'm that person, like, I don't know if any of you have watched Leslie Knope on Parks and Recreation, but she has like binders, she's like, to go on a relaxing vacation, she has like a binder of like 20 things she wants to do each day. Like that's kind of my default state. But I've learned with chronic illness that it's been more helpful to like live in the here and now and like what's possible today, rather than which a state that I think a lot of people get into with chronic illness, which is, oh, I'm going to find the miracle cure. I'm going to find a way to heal this or make everything go away so that at some future point I can feel better. So the idea is what can you do right now, even with some degree of pain and fatigue? How can you live a vibrant, beautiful life now? And that's kind of to me, a very empowering mindset. And the other goal is to facilitate the community to support you. So when Joan first came in, we were talking about how, she's never talked to anyone with the same diagnosis, with the same condition. And someone else I just had lunch with. So the same thing, it's a very lonely experience. Even if you watch people on social media, like me or others who are like super out there about their condition, it can be really challenging to be like, yes, I know that I'm not the only one, but like, there's just something in our human nature, I think, that is really soothing about actually being able to have a live back and forth experience of communication with people with your same condition. And yeah, in the chat, Joan said, dealing with uncertainty has been one of the hardest for you so far. And you're a planner. So living in the here and now is undoubtedly something you'll learn from this diagnosis. That's a beautiful way to put it. I honestly do think that is something I've gotten better. I've gotten better at living in the here and now. And I've loosened my control freak tendencies as a result of the rheumatoid arthritis. And I think that's a kind of a silver lining for sure, but it is hard. Like having the illusion of control or actual control is very enticing, right? It actually makes us in the moment feel less anxiety, to feel a sense of control. But paradoxically, if we can learn how to let go of control a little bit, we actually can experience like a deeper level of self-efficacy, because it's like my happiness isn't contingent on my controlled plan going according to plan. Let me know if that makes sense. Like if your life happiness depends on like your plan working perfectly, you're obviously going to be sorely disappointed every time it doesn't. But if you're like, I can deal with whatever life throws at me, even if it's not great, that's kind of a different sense of empowerment, I think. And the other goal is to help you get unstuck and out of overwhelm. I wish I could remember one of the testimonials someone wrote. They said it really nicely. They're like, Cheryl didn't like solve all my problems, but I at least feel better about the problems now. And I was like, that's a good way to put it. But okay, let me get into the nitty gritty, and then I'll definitely give you guys lots of time, or you people lots of time to ask questions. And again, they can be about the Rheum to Thrive program, or I'm sorry, I talk really fast, so please tell me like slow down if you'd like. So the Room to Thrive right now, there is 2 options. One is the self-paced course, which is kind of like a educational program where it's a series of pre-recorded lectures that I've given and I'm going to tell you what the topics are, but the goal is, again, managing symptoms, reducing stress, and building a good life with your condition, again, in the here and now. That's the main self-paced course. That's like the core Room to Thrive curriculum framework. It's all evidence-based. I have hundreds of citations to literature and research during in the slides, and you get access to all the videos and PDF downloads of the slides, the lecture slides. And then you could have the self-paced course bundled with a 12-week support group that I facilitate. At this point, it's always me facilitating it, or I do have a backup person if I'm sick or out of town. And so this is the part that I enjoy the most, is again, the live interaction and seeing the friendships and just the intergenerational and interdiagnosis relationships that form as well. So it's anyone with an inflammatory or rheumatic disease that has to do something with arthritis, that has some sort of joint pain, and you have basically autoimmune disease. It's normally rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic, and various forms of spondyloarthritis. But I've also had people come to the group who are like, look, I only have EDS, like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobile type, but I have joint pain from that, and I'd like to learn more how to manage. I always say, I'll take anyone who wants the support, because I know there's not enough support out there. I do disclose that, okay, some of the units are really geared towards, like, the scientific evidence I'm citing is really geared towards people with these specific rheumatic diseases, the ones you'd see a rheumatologist for. But you're certainly welcome, especially in the support aspect. We all cope with some of the same stuff, whether if it's a chronic condition. So the program, the curriculum at a glance, I love like graphics. I paid someone on Fiverr to do this graphic, and I think she did such a good job. So there's 8 units in the core program. We start with rheumatic disease 101, medical literacy, and figuring out who are the professionals that are on your team. It's not just a rheumatologist. There's also the pharmacist, potentially social worker, counselor, therapist, physical therapist, occupational therapist, support groups, all sorts of people. So helping you understand kind of how that's putting the seeds of the medical system here. And then we kind of come back to that in lesson 7. But okay, so we have unit 1 is this, 2 is tools for pain and fatigue. 3 is healthy habits or helpful habits like nutrition, exercise, sleep. A lot of people lump this together into the topic of like lifestyle, which is great. Yeah, it's things you can do in your daily habits and routines that can help you reduce symptoms and improve well-being. Then there's relationships. This is one of the ones that's the most ripe for discussion in the support group. So we talk about how family and friends and work, how our condition is affected by those things, family, friends, and also romantic relationships, I should say, there too. And then we talk about inner world, which is really, I wanted this all to spell out thrive. Sorry, by the way, so it's a THRIVE. Got it? So that's why it's called inner world, but it also could be called like mental health, but that doesn't start with an I. So ways to manage our mind, our coping skills, reach a level of acceptance. It can be reluctant acceptance. That's okay. Or, reluctant resilience. And then unit 6 is all about values and valued activities. Unit 7 is about, and that's how to still do the things we love, with our condition. Adaptations, can we tweak things? Can we find a substitute activity that we enjoy? And then unit 7 is all about executive functions. This is like people call it boring self-care. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's not just self-care. It's also like basically managing your job, the unpaid job of being a chronic illness patient. I wish I had like a secret of like how to navigate insurance in the US, because that's a big one, but there are not very many complete secrets. It's just keep calling and be relentless. But how to track symptoms, how to have effective appointments, and then overall how to become like the CEO of your care team. and then come with more confidence, and then we finish. So the optional support group is 12 meetings with a group of 16 or less. And we meet over the course of 4 months. So it's almost one meeting every week, but a lot of times I spread it out a little bit, partly because it's like, I don't, if I know I'm traveling or have a conflict, I'll skip that week. And so the next one does start on next week, a week from today. The next group meets on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, and they're cohort based, which means you join it, like you have to join it before the next one starts, and then everyone stays together through that group. And the one I'll do after this will be in the fall. So this one meets between May and August, and then the next group will start either in September or October. So hopefully that makes sense. So again, you can always do the self-paced course, or you could do the support group. So this is just a little bit more. I have the eight little slides about the 8 units in the curriculum, and then I'll go through these really quickly, and then some frequently asked questions. Then I'll open it up for general Q&A, but feel free again to drop your questions into the chat. So the first one is intro to rheumatic disease. So go over what is inflammation, what are some of these common terms you'll hear, like flare up, biologics, DMARDs, and how to gain like basic literacy around your condition. And then in tools for pain and fatigue, I really go into the science. What is pain? What is fatigue? What is the root cause of the pain and fatigue in rheumatic disease? Spoiler alert, no one knows for 100% sure what is going on in terms of like a definitive answer in rheumatic diseases, but there are definitely some strong correlations between certain lifestyle factors like movement, exercise, stretching, sleep, nutrition, and the pain and fatigue that you may experience. So unit 2 and 3 go really close together. Unit 3 is the healthy habits, like helpful habits, like diet, exercise, and sleep. So I talk about like problem solving, reducing pain and fatigue in everyday life. That kind of goes into the life hack. So if you're here from social media and that's how you heard about, this, I do a lot of videos on life hacks. And so I have time in the course devoted to that as well. And then again, I mentioned nutrition, exercise, sleep, very, very evidence-based. I kind of help you understand, like, there are so many claims out there about different diets and everything. And again, lack of evidence isn't evidence of a lack of helpfulness of any particular intervention, but I try to help you wade through that data and kind of understand, okay, this is, a good starting point if you are overwhelmed with these things. And how to navigate relationships. Again, this is a really popular one from when we have our discussions. I meant to say, so really quick, in this 12-week support group, I have so you get the course as part of that, the self-paced course. And so I have a suggested viewing schedule. So each week when we meet, we have an icebreaker, and then I open it up to questions and answers or anything that people want to share that they're inspired to share about the topic of the week or the videos of the week. So like last week, for example, it was the first 2 videos in Inner World, which were about intro to stress, cognitive behavior therapy tools, and basic like mindfulness techniques. And so people shared about that, what was clear to them, what was unclear, what it made them think about. And then we open it up for just general overall sharing Q&As. And it's free for all. I don't make everyone it's not required that anyone talk, and I'll go over that in the Q&As, but or frequently asked questions. It's whoever feels inspired to shares, and I facilitate that discussion. So and then unit 5, I mentioned, we have the stress management. I switched the order of these 2. So cognitive behavior therapy strategies, mindfulness and acceptance and commitment therapy, and then building your coping toolbox. It's a lot, but I have a suggested viewing schedule over 12 weeks, whether you're in the support group or not, because I do think it's chunked out kind of nicely that way. And so it's not too overwhelming. That's kind of the paradox, right? I'm trying not to overwhelm you, but I also want to give you a lot of information because like knowledge is power, but I understand that it can be overwhelming. So you're not required to watch anything. This is not like a college course. You can pick and choose what you want to watch or read from the course. And then unit 6 is all about values, valued activities, problem solving, finding moments of joy in our lives, even with our condition. And even if we can't do what we used to be able to do, what can we still do? And then the CEO skills, like I mentioned, and executive functioning. Then we put it all together and finish the course. And, here's a couple of testimonials. I mean, I could give you more. There are more on the official course page, but, even people who are hesitant to join the group do end up feeling often the same thing that Aaron experienced, where, the strong sense of community has made an impact. And apparently I led the meetings with compassion, inclusiveness, and an open mind. I feel validated, empowered, and grateful. And I will say I try really, really, really hard to be open-minded to all different methods of managing your condition. I will be honest with my understanding and my opinion of the data when it comes to certain methods being much more likely to be successful for you than others. But I respect if you would like to, for any reason, pursue your managing your condition in whatever way feels best for you, as long as it's not hurting anyone. It's not, it's we're all adults here. So, confident for the first time. This was just a recent one from March. Katie was saying how lost and overwhelmed she felt. She didn't know how to research everything on the internet. And she felt like it's been getting a crash course in the diagnosis, along with the community that gets it. So that made me really happy, because that's exactly the goal. And then she said she walked into a rheumatologist appointment confident for the first time since the diagnosis. And that's definitely my goal as well. That's the kind of the goal of the executive functioning section in particular. And then Suzanne said, no more spinning my wheels over researching and overthinking. So that's helpful. I mean, some of us still have to work on that. I still work on overthinking, to be honest, but she felt like it was a close community atmosphere. So that was awesome. And so frequently asked questions, this is the base price of it. There's the self-paced course, which you can pay up front or 4 payments. And then there's the course plus support group. But that said, I do always offer, and this is just me. I have one admin person that helps me 5 hours a week. And then the rest is me, which is good, because then I have the freedom to, offer like sliding scale payments or pay what you can. And I just explain how that works over email. So I never want anyone to miss out on the chance to be part of a group like this because of finances. So, a lot of us were dealing with very expensive conditions to manage. So the next group I mentioned is going to be Thursdays, and there's currently 9 spots left. It'll be 5:00 Eastern, 4:00. I actually just got another email that someone's joined. So I mean, it's 8 people left now. But 3:00 Mountain Time, 2:00 Pacific starts. That's actually one of the reasons I made the info session at this time, because it's the time that the meetings will be for the next group. And I do different times. Sometimes I'll do morning ones. Those work for Pacific time morning, like 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, works really well for the East or for Europe. So it's open to people around the world. So Europe time zones that's after work for people in Europe. So just depends on the season. This time I'm just doing the Thursday one. And another frequently asked question, in case you have had this impression, which I understand how you would get this impression, but wait a minute, aren't support groups just like depressing or full of complaining? And they absolutely can be, but they really differ depending on how they're structured and who's facilitating them. So in Rheum to Thrive, I do focus on the practical tips for reducing symptoms or improving our coping skills, but I also do allow time for us to validate, and process difficult emotions, and sometimes just venting can be helpful. So I think it's a healthy balance. I wouldn't say I don't want to say it's like positive vibes only. I don't think that's actually very healthy. So there are moments that are sad. People do cry sometimes, but we also laugh. We also, talk about how to do our hair. We talk about whatever is going on in people's lives. And that's always a mixture of good and bad and happy and sad. Do you have to talk at the meetings? No. Some people attend all the live meetings and never show their video or talk. Some people, the first few meetings are more shy. Actually, Katie, who wrote that testimonial, she said at the beginning of the group, she was like thinking she would not talk at all. She was just really kind of scared in some ways or overwhelmed at even just the thought of talking about her condition. And then by the end, she was feeling super comfortable. But it's okay if you don't want to talk. Some people don't even attend most of the live meetings. Most people do, but people, you can always watch the replay. So the videos, the meetings like this one are always recorded and then uploaded to a private area of Thinkific, which is the course platform I use. And so there, I do keep them private from my end. And they're never public unless someone has asked for permission to share something publicly. But if you ever would like to speak off the record, just because there is always a chance, let's say someone like took a screen recording or something weird, or someone else's spouse was in the room and they heard you say something or something, you can always ask for me to pause the recording. Is a support group the best fit for everyone's needs, or is Rheum to Thrive, the self-paced course, the best fit for everyone's needs? No, nothing is the best fit for everyone's needs. So if your primary goal is to like find a program that's promising to cure or heal your condition, this is not the one for you. The reason I don't promise that is I don't believe that there is a method to cure or heal your condition based on my understanding of the science and the evidence. I do think healing is a complicated word. The word healing means to make whole. And I do think from a psychological perspective, there's something very healing about the group process and the opportunity to learn these coping skills and share about how we've reached acceptance or what we're struggling with. But I would never say that like I'm healing your rheumatoid arthritis, or that I'm going to guarantee that you're going to go into remission or something like that. There are programs out there that guarantee that. I personally don't find that to be a worthwhile endeavor because I don't think that there is any evidence that they work. But that said, on the whole, I should say on the population level, that said, individuals will always have different experience, different unique idiosyncrasies. And sometimes people find something that's like a miracle and it works for them. But that's not what I teach, but this program can be taken in conjunction with complementary or alternative therapies. There's people who take this program who are like me on 2 different medications and have been on medications for 20 years. There's people who are really, their goal is to titrate down on their meds, or they've come off their meds and they're managing with, just diet and stress management techniques or exercise. And there's everything in between. It's not a good fit if you don't believe that anything that you do is going to matter or change anything. If you kind of have a sense of hopelessness, or you believe that no matter what you do, you're going to feel bad, that is totally an emotionally valid stage that a lot of people go through. But I just take the time to say that because this is not going to be helpful for you if you don't believe that it can help you. I hope that makes sense. And it's not a good use of your time, and it's not a good use of the group members' time, because it's not a congruent attitude with the kind of focus on thriving that I'm trying to achieve. The group is about figuring out productive ways to love ourselves and thrive and live a good life with rheumatic disease. And if you don't believe that you can do that at this point, I would really recommend, or I would say that would be cause for pursuing like one-on-one individual therapy. That, psychological support elsewhere would really be more appropriate than a group environment that's really focused on thriving. So I hope that makes sense. Again, it's not focusing on thriving in like a toxic positivity way, but it's in a practical, like we want to orient ourselves towards what is still possible in our lives. And so again, one-on-one therapy or support, if that's just how you prefer to receive support, if you don't like the idea of a group, I do not encourage you to join a group. It's going to be a better experience if everyone in the group wants to be there. So other frequently asked question, how do I know if it's a good fit? It can be a good fit if you have one of these kinds of conditions or a chronically painful chronic disease. You want to learn the tools to manage your condition through lifestyle and coping. You feel alone and want to connect with others. And then you want to feel more empowered in your interactions with health providers. So I will say I am doing a flash deal right now for anyone who signed up for this, or for the this info session, or for the what's it called? The wait list is a 25% off. So I will put this code in the chat. But that said, again, regardless of any bonuses that are going on, I always offer the pay what you can option, just again, to improve access to the program. So I'm almost done. I get a little wordy, but this is the link. I'll put it in the chat, and it's time now for questions. I'm going to take like a tiny breath here, but I will put that link to sign up here, and then the code. This is link to sign up, code to get 25% off. I know some people are already signed up, but I can retroactively apply that. That is hilarious. I didn't actually say what the code was here. It's let me get the correct, so I don't say this wrong. The 20 course, I think it's course 25, but let me just make sure. But any questions so far, you can unmute yourself, you can put your video on, or you can just put it in the chat, or, oh, I also want to say my email. There we go. My email is it's called Contest 25. That's right, because I had a giveaway contest. So one person won the giveaway, but and everyone else who entered and who was on the wait list gets the 25% off. But that does expire tomorrow at essentially midnight, like Friday night, midnight Western time, Pacific Standard Time, 11:59 p.m. So it's just, something to get you off the edge if you're not really sure, but you do want to participate. Oh, and actually, I didn't put this in the FAQs. It is in the on the sign up page. So that the page that's arthritisLifeschool.thinkific, it has additional FAQs just because no one's asked a question yet. So I'm just going to scroll down. A lot of information. This is like the Thrive framework at a glance, the THRIVE. There are refunds available. Just put that on there. Yeah. What if I want a refund or wish to cancel? You can request a refund at any time within the first 3 days, or honestly later. Again, it's just me. I just do what feels right in each individual circumstance. I just ask that you provide the feedback so I can learn and understand like why it is that you need to withdraw. Oftentimes it's happened a few times, and in those cases, it's often been a life circumstance. They're moving, or they have a sick child, or their condition's gotten worse, or their diagnosis changes, and they're like, I actually don't want to do this program. I want to do a program about my other diagnosis now. And I'm like, totally, go do that. I can also pause your participation in terms of like, say, okay, if you can't make the rest of these meetings for this year, you can join, or this season, you can join the next one in the fall. And that happens again, sometimes for people who just have, we all understand that in the meetings, we all understand people are going to have different, things come up. Our lives aren't predictable. In the meetings, you can always, you can be eating in the meeting, you can be taking a walk. And you can have your people had their babies on their lap in the meeting, or their dogs. We actually do a lot of animal show and tell in the meetings. So people lay down on the couch during the meeting. There's never any pressure to show up like any way, other than there are some group norms that I try to adhere to, like basic things that make any group experience good, like respect, privacy, confidentiality, giving people a chance to talk who haven't had a chance, that kind of thing. So any questions? I'm going to take a sip of water real quick. Did I just like talk so much? I covered everything. It doesn't have to be about the Room to Thrive. It can just be about, I have 15 more minutes. So if we want to talk about anything, we can. Otherwise, we can end early too. Teachers are supposed to wait like 6 seconds. I can never, I'm unable to wait 6 whole seconds. Oh, yes, Helen. Okay. So is there a list of the dates of the live support groups, or do you release them as they come up? So I could tell you seasonally, my goal is to offer it in the spring and then the fall. And then this one is kind of like an exception because it's going from the spring over bleeding into the summer. But sometimes I usually can't say for sure if it's going to be an afternoon meeting. I don't know until I get my son's like sports schedule, because I am the default parent, as they say in our family system. So I'm the one that takes him to lacrosse and soccer and piano lessons. And he's actually this afternoon going to an improv class, So, but right now I can tell you the specific dates of, if you're interested in this coming up group, I can put the dates in the chat, because there, like I said, there are some that it's not every single Thursday. It's most Thursdays between May and August, but there's a few, again, because of my own, scheduled vacations and such. Let me get that. Okay. It's May. Here we go. Those are the dates for the upcoming group. The fall will likely be one weekday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, and then another weekday at 9:30 a.m. 12:30 p.m. Eastern. The 12:30 time Eastern, 9:30 Pacific almost always works because it's when my son's at school. And then it's also a good time for European time zones, as I mentioned earlier. The 2 p.m. time is also a good one. It's just kind of what I end up doing is kind of vacillating because of other people's schedule between either 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, or 12:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm putting it all in Eastern because the majority of people are on the East Coast. I will occasionally offer Saturday morning, Pacific, like Saturday midday. That is the time that a lot of people like. It's just, again, with my family, that's been a little harder for me to do. A goal of mine, though, is to train other people to facilitate the groups, because I do, as much as I love myself, I do recognize that other people have different, every facilitator has different strengths, and it would be great to be able to offer different, even more different options that might work. I had this one poor woman who signed up, bless her heart, as they say. She signed up last session and had to withdraw because she's in Australia. And I said ET, just shortening Eastern time, but she thought it was East Australia time. So it ended up being like 1 a.m, her time, right? So that did not work. But actually the afternoon ones tend to work anyway, in like Japan and Asia. Like, it depends on where the time zones are. But I hope that helps. So I usually do, those are the times I've usually done it, either the 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, or as I mentioned, the 7:30 Eastern or the 12:30 p.m. A lot of people can, if they have a flexible work schedule, they can do the 12:30 Eastern one on like a lunch break and stuff like that. And a lot of people are kind of tired in the evening. So I'm always surprised that the 7:30 one is popular, but it does seem to work for a lot of people. I'm a morning person, so my preferred time would always be the early morning ones, but not everyone else likes them. Let's see. But yeah, ideal, like if I just started Arthritis Life 3 years ago, which they're pandemic years, so it feels like 10 years ago. But my goal would be to grow this bigger, to have like lots of options for people. So I would love to offer more times. Anything else? I will send you, I'm putting this in the chat, a link to the recording and to the slides, just so you know, in case you want to like look at any of the hyperlinks. So one of the questions I do get sometimes is like, what's the age range? The age range is anyone from their, I don't accept youth, like officially youth in the United States is like 18 and under, just because I don't really know the legalities of that. And also I don't feel that's the age that I'm I didn't design the program for. I designed it for adults. So it's usually, the majority of people are usually between their 30s and 50s. But there's always a handful in their 20s. There's always some people in their 60s, 70s, 80s. It's really open to anyone. And it's open to people who've had the diagnosis for decades or the diagnosis for days. Like, I think the shortest amount of time was somebody like signed up for this like 6 days after they got diagnosed, and they just were like at the exact right time where I was about to start a group. And that was because they asked their friend, and their friend knew about it. So most of the time it's people who've been diagnosed, I would say, within the last year or two. But it really works well to have a mix of diagnoses and a mix of ages and a mix of experiences, because everyone has their own wisdom in different ways. So I think that's been something fun for me. I was a little worried about that at first. Like, oh, should I like make some groups just for newly diagnosed or some groups for people who had it longer? But it's actually works really, really well to have a really diverse group diagnosis wise. I'm excited. I'm seeing people sign up. So that's really awesome. Thank you all for being part of this like very small, intimate little information session. Yes, and I should have put this in there, that I do also do, I have a little link for like a one-on-one chats that are designed for like, or that are scheduled for 15 minutes, which if you can imagine, because I'm very talkative, it usually ends up being more than that usually, but it depending on my schedule. But I do have it kind of open on my schedule so that I can answer if you have questions that you want to ask, like in a one-on-one environment, or you just are like there was somebody who was like, I'm just not sure this is right for me. And they kind of had their own specific life circumstance that they wanted to talk about. I'm certainly happy to do that. And I chunked out a bunch of time Friday, which apparently is tomorrow, and Monday to do that. So I'm looking forward to starting next week. If there's nothing else, I can wrap it up, but I'll give one last call for questions. Oh, and you have access. So if you join the support group plus the course, or if you just join the course, what I say as a default, people ask, how long do you have access to the program, the videos and stuff? The recorded videos I've already recorded and everything, you have access to that for 6 months, and the recordings of the video of the meetings. And I just say as a default 6 months, because piece of advice I got from a friend of mine who does online courses, she's like, never guarantee lifetime access, because you never know what's going to happen. Like the platform that you host everything on could like, the business could go out of business and then you lose everything and you can't, so I was like, oh, that's a good point. So I also, from a psychological perspective, there's some evidence people are more likely to go through a course if they know that they have a certain endpoint to get through it. But that being said, I always give people access later. So far, I've always done that if they want access longer. So, and you can download all the PDFs. I don't allow downloading of the videos, only because it's too risky that some people, unfortunately, I've known this happen to people where someone steals their entire program and like resells it as their own. Although I'm trying to imagine how someone would do that with me, because it's me talking and it's very personal, but I don't know. I'm a little paranoid about that. So I don't allow you to download the videos, but you can watch them. But okay, it sounds like everyone's good. I want to respect your time, so I'll wrap up a couple minutes early, but thank you so much. I will see some of you in the group next week, and I'll see some of you on social media, and I will email the link to the recording. Okay, bye-bye for now.